Good morning, dear students. This is your teacher Neela Melawat, and today we are continuing the chapter 3, that is metal and non-metals. Just to remind you, dear students, we know that most of this chapter has been removed or eliminated for this session. Okay, but hopefully next session you will have the complete chapter. Right? So whatever chapter which is there in the syllabus, it is very, very important. Okay, that is very, very important, and you need to understand the basics and you need to revise them again and again. Okay, so today's topic that we will have, if you remember, we were discussing the chemical properties. Okay, and the next in series is how metals and non-metals, they react with each other. Okay, dear students, metal and non-metals, they will react, they will interact with each other, and they will result in the formation of a compounds which are called as ionic compounds. Okay, now let's understand this concept. Metals, as you know, they have a tendency to donate the electrons. Okay, metals have a tendency to donate the electrons. So that is why the metals, they are referred to as electropositive in nature. Right? They are electropositive in nature. So they have electropositive nature. In the same manner, non-metals, they have a tendency to accept the electrons. Okay? Non-metals, they have a tendency to accept the electrons, and thus we can say they are electronegative in nature. Right? So whenever metals and non-metals, they will react with each other, metal will give the electrons, non-metal will take the electrons. So metal will give the electrons to non-metals, non-metals will accept the electron. Okay, since metal is giving the electron, it is electropositive, so it will acquire a positive charge. And since non-metals, they will accept the electron, they will acquire a negative charge. And this bonding between the metal and non-metal, because of the transfer of electrons, is called as ionic bonding, and these compounds will be called as ionic compounds. So let me repeat it again. Metals will give electrons, and thus they will acquire a positive charge. Non-metals, they will accept the electron, and thus they will acquire a negative charge. And this bonding will be called as ionic bond, and the compound which is formed as a result of this transfer of electrons will be called as ionic bond. Okay, I hope this much is clear. What is ionic bond? So the bond which is formed by transfer of electrons between the non-metal and between metal and the non-metal, and the compound which is formed is called as ionic compound. Now let's talk about electronic configuration of some elements which are very, very important. Let's talk about, because since we are talking about the metals and the non-metals, so let's focus on the metals first. See, sodium has atomic number 11. So we can divide the number of electrons, we can divide the, you can say these electrons, 11 electrons which are present, into 3 shells. So K will have, 2 electrons, L will have 8 electrons, M will have 1 electron. I hope you remember this, since you've done this in class 9th. If there is even any doubt, you can still ask me. Now this division of electrons is as per the 2n square rule, right? Where you can have maximum 2 electrons in K shell, 8 electrons in the L shell, 18 in the M shell, and 32 in the N shell. So you got to divide the number of electrons as per the 2n square rule, right? Coming to the magnesium, magnesium has atomic number 12. So again division will be 2, 8, 2, right? Aluminium, the atomic number is 13. So division is 2, 8, 3. Potassium 19. The division is, let me use a different color. Division is 2, 8, 8, 1. Now this is very, very important. Okay. You all must remember these two are very important. Why they are important? Because just now I have discussed that in the M shell we need to have 18 electrons. But here first 8 electrons are filled, then we will shift to the N shell and then we will come back to the M shell to complete it. ठीक है बेटा जी? देखिए अगर हम सीरीज़ में फिल करते हैं तो सीरीज़ में मूव करते हैं हम KLMN, और अभी अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि K शेल में मैक्सिमम 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हो सकते हैं, L में 8, M में 18. तो M में 18 फिल करने के बाद ही हम N पर शिफ्ट होते हैं, लेकिन यहाँ पर देखिए हमने M शेल में सिर्फ 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स फिल किए हैं और हम N शेल में शिफ्ट हो गए हैं. So this is also one of the rules which says that we need to have maximum 8 electrons first in the previous shell. So then again we'll go to N and we'll come back to M. Now likewise in calcium also 2, 8, 8, 2. Okay. So these two exceptions are there. So you have to be very careful regarding these. You should not commit any mistake. Okay. Because these are certain exceptions. So you always remember this. You just have to remember first 20 elements. I'm making it clear for everybody every time when I have this class that you just need to remember the first 20 elements. Okay, up to class 10th, you just remember the first 20 elements, their configuration, their atomic number, their atomic masses. Now coming to the non-metals. See, in non-metals, nitrogen. Atomic number is 7, so division is 2 and 5. Oxygen 8, 2, 6. Fluorine 9. So let's divide it. 2 and 7. Phosphorus is 15. So 2, 8, 5. Sulfur 16, 2, 8, 6. Okay. Any doubt here till here? I hope you will learn these configurations of these metals and non-metals. And if there is any doubt, you can certainly ask me, right? Okay. Now let's discuss the formation of ionic compounds. See, I have taken first example, which is NaCl. And just now we have talked about the configuration of sodium and chlorine separately. Let's do it once again. Sodium, the symbol is Na. Okay. The atomic number is 11. So the configuration is 2, 8, 1. Isn't it, Bear? Yes. Again, you see, sodium atomic number is 11. The configuration is 2, 8, 1. So how many electrons are present in the outermost shell? Tell me how many are present in the outermost shell? 1 electron. Okay. So we will be putting 1 dot on the sodium. Clear? Now chlorine. Chlorine is 17. So it is 2, 8, 7. See, octet rule says, what is octet rule? Have you heard about it? This rule says that we need to have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. ठीक है बेटा जी? तो ऑक्टेट रूल हमारा ये कहता है कि के शेल के अलावा, ओके, के शेल के अलावा आपकी हर शेल में 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होने चाहिए, राइट? So now just look at the sodium. How many electrons it has? It has only 1. And how many it needs to complete octet rule? It needs 7 electrons. And just look at chlorine. Chlorine has already have 7. How many it needs? It needs only 1 electron. Okay. तो सोडियम के पास एक ही इलेक्ट्रॉन है, क्लोरीन के पास 7 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैं, and it only requires 1. So now you just see, since sodium has 1 electron and chlorine has 7 electrons, so we'll be putting dots. On sodium, we'll be putting 1 dot. let me use a black color. So let it be sodium. Sodium has only 1 electron, so 1 dot. Chlorine has 7 electrons, so I'll be putting 7 dots here. Right? So it requires 1 electron more. Right? It requires 1 electron. And suppose if sodium loses this electron, so it will have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. अगर सोडियम ये एक एक्स्ट्रा इलेक्ट्रॉन क्लोरीन को दे देता है, सो क्लोरीन के पास आपके 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हो जाएंगे और सोडियम के पास भी आपके आउटर मोस्ट शेल में 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन हो जाएंगे. सो सोडियम विल डेफिनेटली गिव दिस इलेक्ट्रॉन टू दिस. सो वी विल इंडिकेट दिस ट्रांसफर लाइक दिस. So now since sodium is giving 1 electron, okay, sodium is giving 1 electron, isn't it? Sodium is giving its 1 electron to the chlorine, so it will acquire a positive charge. And since chlorine is taking 1 electron, it will acquire a negative charge, right? So we have sodium cation and we have chloride anion. So sodium is forming a positive ion. Sodium is forming a positive ion and chlorine is forming a negative ion. Always remember this. So sodium is forming a positive ion and chlorine is forming a negative ion. Okay. Right? And since sodium is giving 1 electron, chlorine is taking 1 electron. So there is a formation of bond between the sodium and chlorine. And this will result in the formation of the compound NaCl. Okay, I hope this much is clear. So can you explain the formation of sodium chloride? Yes, very good. So in sodium chloride, in compound sodium chloride, sodium is giving 1 electron, chlorine is taking 1 electron. So sodium will acquire positive charge, chlorine will acquire negative charge, right? Okay, let's discuss one more example. Next compound is MgCl2. Yes, perfectly okay, beta. Yes. So let's take it first, magnesium. Magnesium is a metal. So magnesium has atomic number 12. So configuration will be 282. So how many dots will be putting on magnesium? 2. Perfect, because it has 2 electrons in the outermost shell. Now we have 2 chlorines. So let's take it separately. Each will have atomic number 17. So 287. 287. So on each chlorine we'll be putting 7 dots. Okay. Like magnesium will be putting 2 dots. Chlorine will be putting 7 dots. Same here. So magnesium will give 1 electron to this and 1 electron to this. Okay. So 1 electron यहाँ चला जाएगा, 1 electron यहाँ चला जाएगा. So now each chlorine will have 8 electrons. Right? So who is giving the electrons? Magnesium. How many electrons it is giving? 2. So it will become Mg2 plus. Why it is becoming 2 plus? Because it is giving 2 electrons. Very good. And how many chlorine atoms are there? 2 chlorine atoms. Very nice. And how many electrons each chlorine atom is taking? 1. एक chlorine atom के पास कितने electrons जा रहे हैं? 1. So we have 2 chlorine atoms. So we will write 2 at the bottom. And since it is taking 1 electron, so we will put 1 minus on each chlorine atom. Like one will have minus, another will also have minus. Okay. So each chlorine atom is taking 1 electron. So we will put 1 minus on each chlorine atom. And since the number of atoms is 2. So this will result in the formation of a compound which is called as MgCl2. So magnesium will form a positive ion. Chlorine will form a negative ion. And what do we call the positive ion? Cation. Very good. So magnesium cation is formed and chloride anion is formed. Okay? Right. So now we can define the ionic compounds. Now we have discussed two examples, that is NaCl and MgCl2. So both of these, they are ionic compounds. So the compounds that are formed by transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal is called as ionic or electrovalent compounds. So what are ionic compounds, dear students? The compounds which are formed by transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metals. Okay. So we have a metal, we have a non-metal. So metal will give the electron to the non-metal, and thus there is a bond, formation of bond between these two. Okay, there is a formation of bond between these two. That bond will be called as ionic bond, and the compound will be called as ionic compound. Okay, let's discuss few more examples. MgO. Okay, again see Mg. Yes, atomic number is 12. Configuration will be 282. So how many dots on magnesium? 2. Oxygen. Oxygen is how? What is the atomic number of oxygen? 8. So it is 2, 6. So you can see magnesium will give these 2 electrons to oxygen. So magnesium will put 2 dots. Chlorine will put, oxygen we will put 6 dots. Okay. So these two, they will be transferred. Let's use different color so that we can clearly indicate. These 2 electrons, they will be transferred on oxygen as I am showing in this picture. So magnesium has 2 electrons. They will be transferred into the oxygen. Now magnesium, how many electrons magnesium is giving? 2. So magnesium will become Mg positive. Oxygen is taking 2 electrons, so it will become O negative. Right? So magnesium will form the positive ions. Oxygen will form the negative ions. Right? So that is why magnesium oxide is also a ionic compound, where magnesium is giving 2 electrons to oxygen. Let's take another example. Na2O. Na2O. So how many atoms of sodium? 2 atoms. Let's write separately. Na. 11. 281. 281. Oxygen 8. 2, 6. So now you see each sodium has 1 electron. So it will, each one of them will give 1 electron to oxygen. So sodium will have 1 dot. Each sodium will have 1 dot. And oxygen will have how many dots? 6 dots. So this will also give 1 electron. This will also give an electron, as you can see in this picture also. So there is a transfer of 1 electron from each sodium. So sodium will become, 1 sodium will become 1 positive. Okay. So how many sodium? 2. So we will write 2 at the bottom. So Na plus. How many Na plus are there? 2 Na plus. So that is why 2. And oxygen is taking 2 electrons. So O minus, 2 minus. So sodium is giving 1 electron. So plus. And there are 2 sodium atoms. So Na2. Oxygen alone is taking 2 electrons. So it will become negative ion O2 minus. Any doubt now? So in total we have discussed 4 ionic compounds, right? We have discussed 4 ionic compounds. These all 4, they are very, very important. All 4, they are very, very important. So you need to practice these all 4 compounds, right? Now I am coming to the properties of ionic compounds. See, there are 4 general properties of the ionic compounds that I will be discussing here. First is the physical nature. See, ionic compounds, dear students, they are solids. Solids, I hope you know. Yes, it is a state. So mostly they are solids because they have a very strong force of attraction between the negative and the positive ions. Just now we discussed that NaCl is formed. Just an example I am taking. Na has a positive charge, chlorine has a negative charge. So sodium has positive charge, chlorine has negative charge. So there is a strong force of attraction between the positive and the negative ions, and that is why these compounds, they have strong force of attraction, and because of their strong force of attraction, they are solids. Secondly, because of the same, since they have very strong force of attraction, they have high melting and boiling points. अभी हमने डिस्कस किया है कि पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव आयंस की वजह से आयनिक कंपाउंड्स बनते हैं, तो इसीलिए स्ट्रॉन्ग फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन की वजह से दे हैव अ हाई मेल्टिंग एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट्स. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Sometimes in the exams they ask you straightly that why the melting point of ionic compounds is high. So they have a high melting point because there is a strong force of attraction between the positive and the negative ions, right? There's a strong force of attraction between the positive and the negative ions. Okay, clear? And because of this, we require large amount of energy to break their attraction. Third is solubility. Ionic compounds, they are soluble in water. Means, suppose NaCl. What is NaCl? The common salt that we have in houses, right? हमारे घर में जो हम common salt use करते हैं, वो हमारा NaCl compound है. So NaCl compound जो है बेटा जी, that is highly soluble in water. वो पानी में soluble होता है, and it is insoluble in kerosene, petrol, diesel, etc. Fourth, if you add ionic compounds in water, okay, if you add ionic compounds in water, like if you add NaCl in water, so that will become an aqueous solution of NaCl, and if you pass current through the aqueous solution of NaCl, they will allow current to pass through it. So the aqueous solution of ionic compounds conduct electricity. तो जो ionic compounds है बेटा, वो solution form में electricity को conduct करते हैं, but they do not conduct. Okay. So a solution of ionic compound water contains ions, and that is why they will allow the electricity to pass through them. So in solid state, they will not conduct electricity. So ionic compounds जो हैं वो solid state में electricity को conduct नहीं करते हैं. Liquid state में, aqueous state में वो electricity को conduct करते हैं, and mostly molten state में भी वो electricity को conduct करते हैं, क्योंकि उस वक्त भी heat जो है वो उनकी force of attraction को overcome कर देती है. So they have four basic properties. Let me rewind first. They are mostly solids because they have a strong force of attraction. They have high melting and boiling point because they have again so strong force of attraction. So they require large amount of energy to break the bonds. Then they are soluble in water. And fourth, they conduct electricity in aqueous as well as molten state, but do not conduct electricity in the solid state. Okay. So four basic general properties of the ionic compounds. So we have finished this topic. So today's your homework is you got to make notes of this topic, and you have to read the page number 46 to 49. And if there is any doubt, any query, you can discuss your queries with me. Okay? Yes. So that's all for today. Bye everyone.